they're going into that November 11th game against Gus Malzahn's Auburn Tigers to put themselves in position to, once they get past Auburn, if they're able to, because that game is in Jordan Hare down there in Auburn, that they'll find themselves in position to get to that SEC championship game and will face Alabama out of the SEC West. So obviously that SEC championship game will be eliminator when it comes to the college football playoff. But no, Georgia's been fantastic. Nick Chubb is still there after 100 years it feels like, running the football,
Yep.
and Kirby Smart defensively, that's his calling card. Obviously, coming from Alabama as the longtime defensive coordinator there, but no, their road looks good as long as they can get past Auburn um, in a couple of weeks, and then of course that game against Georgia Tech is never a gimme, no matter how bad or
Not
how
at all.
good Georgia Tech is. So that game for them is on the road the weekend of Thanksgiving. So now Kirby Smart's got that program maybe a year ahead of schedule, just based on the time frame that he has come in there to lead this program. But no, they're right there. But that SEC championship game will obviously, between if Georgia holds serve for the next few weeks, that they'll play Alabama in that SEC championship game. The winner of that will obviously go to the college football playoff. So a team that I'm still you know yes, they've improved. They've got some new, obviously basically a new entire coaching staff under Brian Kelly is Notre Dame, and putting themselves in a position where they got a nice win over NC State this past weekend. So that was one of the featured games this past weekend, and Notre Dame looks good. They still have some tough games, obviously. Wake Forest, they play at home this week, and then they go and visit Miami in a couple weeks, which will be um, one of their toughest games remaining on the schedule. But Brian Kelly's got their team turned around. He was on the hot seat going into this year after they struggled a year ago. And Malik Zaire transferring to Florida, who looks like he's going to get the start this weekend for Florida after their shenanigans that took place this week after they fired Jim McElwain and Randy Shannon taking over, former Miami head coach taking over for Jim McElwain. So Notre Dame's look good. Clemson is right there. Dabo Swinney, defending national champs, they're right there. Kelly Bryant at the quarterback position filled in nicely for. I mean, it's hard to fill the shoes of a guy who took you to two national championship games and won one and was the best player on the football field in the last two national championship games in Deshaun Watson. But Kelly Bryant's done a pretty good job there, and Clemson is right where they want to be. But the best game of this past weekend, obviously, was Ohio State and Penn State. J.T. Barrett saving his legacy somewhat. We had talked to Ari Wasserman of the Athletic Cleveland about how J.T. Barrett, this was a legacy game for him, and he came through in the clutch, pun intended, for Penn State. For Ohio State this weekend. And Urban Meyer and that program is exactly where they want to be. Right now, sitting sixth in the college football playoff rankings, and but I think they're right where they want to be though, because they know what's ahead of them is in their control. If they win out, they're obviously going to win the Big Ten, represent the Big Ten in the championship game, and most likely face Wisconsin, who's been, really good this year. Sitting at number 9 in the college football playoff, still undefeated. So everything that Ohio State wants is right in front of them, and I think they're a team that if offensively they can continue to perform, they can make a lot of noise because they do have a very good defense led by Nick Bosa, defensive end there. His big brother Joey's up in the NFL tearing it up for the Los Angeles Chargers. But now it's been a wild college football season so far. TCU went down at Iowa State this past weekend, which was a surprising loss for them, given especially how well they've been playing. But I think things are shaping up for a crazy, crazy November going forward. So I think the first release of these college football playoff rankings is most of what everybody expected with Georgia, Alabama, Notre Dame, and Clemson, just given um, Georgia's start. Of course, Alabama being right there, but I'm sure being number 2 doesn't sit too well with the folks in Tuscaloosa, and I'm sure find that motivation to continue to run through the SEC West as they continue their march toward yet another college football playoff appearance. I mean, this weekend, they're taking on LSU, so Ed Orgeron and them LSU Tigers will have their hands full against number 2 Alabama, but I think there wasn't really too many surprises, I thought, with the release of the college football playoff ranking. So I think everything is right where it needs to be going into November.
Yeah, shout out to my man DJ Dollars and Cents, another X Squad affiliate popping up in here. He's got the dollars, the real dollars that make sense. Dang, what's the name of your show, man? Dollars that don't make sense. I can't remember. Anyway, he got a mix show that comes on. Follow him on Spreaker. He got some awesome mixes, man. This is another one of our bona fide, legit DJs out here doing their thing, man. Making a living out there mixing music. That's DJ Dollars and Cents, a.k.a. Reggie. And, shout out to him. Follow him on Spreaker. Follow him on xsquadaffiliates.com. All right. So Dollars came here talking a lot of trash already about the Falcons. He just walked in talking about the Falcons. But he said Bama has played no one. Is that your thoughts on why they didn't remain in number 1? Is because they haven't really had the competition?
Well, I mean, honestly, they've just, put a beat down on everybody. I mean, their best win, we thought going into this year, at this point of the season, was going to be over Florida State. But Florida State obviously has had a terrible season after losing DeAndre Francois at the quarterback position. So that was going to be their signature win. But, I mean, they just blown everybody out. I mean, you beat Fresno State, 41-10. You beat Vanderbilt 59-0. Then you destroy Ole Miss 66-3. Then you go on the road, get a tough win against the Texas A&M team for Kevin Sumlin, still trying to fight for his job down there. And they just steamrolled everybody. Tennessee hasn't played up to expectations going into this year. And Brett Bielema and that Arkansas program is at a crossroads with him as the head coach for that program down there. So Alabama's just destroyed everybody. I don't think it's more so. I think you play who's on your schedule, and their talent is so much better week after week that it feels like they haven't played anybody. But at the same time, none of these teams have the kind of talent level that a Nick Saban brings in year after year. So we'll see what this Alabama team is made up of over the next couple of weeks. I mean, they go on the road, of course, this weekend to LSU, and then they are on the road again the following week against Mississippi State. And then, of course, they always end their season against Auburn, and this time it's at Jordan-Hare the week of Thanksgiving. So we'll still see opportunities for this Alabama team to see what they're made of. But, I mean, they're so deep. Both offensively and defensively. Jalen Hurts continues to play well at the quarterback position, and Alabama's right where they want to be, and they're just that much better than everybody. So no matter who they play, they're going to make their competition look inferior due to just the disparity in talent level between them and whomever they play. So that's a testament to Nick Saban in his ability to recruit. I mean, that's why they're paying him, over $12-13 million to be the head coach there, to do what they do. So I think it's just been Alabama does what they do what they do, and that's they don't rebuild, they reload, and they've obviously reloaded every year. And they're right where they want to be, and they're just that much better than everybody at this point.
Right. Right. Now, in case y'all wonder, this is my man Kevin Gray of Clutch Talk Sports Podcast. And if y'all missed it, like I said, congratulations to him. He's actually starting on a new networks on Monday with the Sports Radio America syndicated network. 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 a.m. Central Standard Time. So we will be all tuning in, and we'll just follow us on xsquadaffiliates.com, follow us on Twitter, and we'll have the alerts and the links and everything up for us to put our support behind them on Monday morning. Hey, so one thing I like about you, Kevin, like I said, you're very knowledgeable. Awesome show that you put on. Happy to have you as an X Squad affiliate. But your show, is that a baby? You got a baby there with you too? Did I hear something?
Yeah, that's my baby girl sitting here with me. She's sitting there watching.
She has something to say.
She's sitting there smiling at Daddy, watching him talk about sports. So she's trying to fight her little sleep right now, but she's hanging out with Daddy as we watch Thursday night football. So I apologize.
Okay, so I can't even ask you what I was about to ask you because I was going to ask you.
Go right ahead.
No. What I was going to say was, okay, you always got great knowledge with the sports. You always bring it when it's, whether it's football, basketball, baseball, MMA, boxing, etc. You always bring it full of knowledge. But I like when you have one of those controversial subjects, one of those political things like Jamel Hill or kneeling or whatever, and you get that little edge on your voice, and you just go in, man. You know what I'm saying? You just start going. It's almost like a rant, man. It's almost like we just get a monologue of you going for about 15 minutes on that subject, man. I'll be like, bring it, bro. It's like sitting there with a pastor, with a preacher up there at the top, you know what I'm saying, on the pulpit. That's how it feels right there, man, because you go in and you be bringing it. And I'm like, this brother here got passion, and he brings it. And of course I said, that's why I said, you can't do that now because your daughter be like, she'll feel the vibe. Like, my daddy angry over there. What's wrong with him? So.
Oh no. She's perfect. She'll sit there through it. So.
All right. So, what's your thoughts on the boxing match coming up this weekend? You got any predictions on that?
Oh man, I've been all over the UFC stuff. I haven't even been paying attention too much to. I know Anthony Joshua fought this past weekend and got himself a win. And see, Deontay Wilder fighting this weekend?
Yeah, the Wilder fight. Yep.
Yeah, he's fighting this weekend. That's right, the Bronze Bomber fighting this weekend. So I'm just waiting on him and Anthony Joshua to get it on. Like that's exactly all I'm here for. I know Tyson Fury is supposedly going to be making a comeback in 2018 to try and reclaim his spot at the top of the heavyweight division. But the only matchup for me right now is Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder. I know Deontay Wilder wants it, and Anthony Joshua got himself another win this past weekend. So that is really the only fight for me, at least in terms of the heavyweight division, that I'm particularly interested in. So I think Wilder handles business this weekend, but at the same time, both fighters know what's coming as far as Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder are concerned. I think that's where all roads lead to. So I fully expect Deontay Wilder to handle business to keep himself in position for that fight with Anthony Joshua. And then when Tyson Fury gets back in 2018, especially if he's a clean and sober Tyson Fury, we've seen what he's done against Klitschko in the past, and how good of a fighter he is. So that's going to be an interesting triangle between the three of them, depending on what happens when Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder fight, if they do. So for me, that's where all roads lead to at this point, especially in the heavyweight.
Which situation is worse? Fury in boxing, or John Bones Jones in UFC?
Oh, it's John Jones. Oh, it's hands down John Jones. And I say that as a John Jones fan and a guy who has watched his entire career. And I don't get down much with what Dana White says, but he was spot on when he said that John Jones is probably the greatest waste of talent in sports history. I mean, there's some other examples that are out there, but John Jones is right up there with him. And the guy has every skill imaginable. He is physically built to be a champion, a long-standing champion in MMA, and he just simply cannot get out of his own way. And it's sad to me that a guy who literally has everything in front of him, as talented and as gifted as any probably the most talented and most gifted fighter that the UFC has